Right, let's get into things. My name's Rodney Featherstone. Thanks for joining me and the team today. Just a few introductions quickly. I'm the head of commercial at PB Tech. Joining me today is Victor Marengo, part of the PB team that looks after our licensing and software solutions, and Liam, who works with Microsoft in the New Zealand market. That's got some good things to go through today. So I'll just go through the agenda. Firstly, I'll be covering a little piece that's dear to my heart, which is financial situation that we're currently about to face with Microsoft and cloud licensing in general. Secondly, Victor will be going through the purchasing models that are available for New Zealand customers in the market currently around how to purchase your Microsoft licensing and some of the pros and cons of each of those models, which you'll all be familiar with. So that's more around access to how you would procure your licenses and getting good support from a New Zealand organisation. So that's what the support sort of structure that we're going to be going through. And then Liam's going to jump in and talk through some of the technical challenges and changes that are between the CSP model of old and the NCE model and what that means for New Zealand business. Then once we've had some Q&A sessions with Liam, we'll be jumping back to Victor, who will give a demonstration of PB Technologies portal and how you can utilise that to your full effect and value if you choose to. At the end there, we're going to go through some of the one of the offers that Microsoft have got available to you, should you choose to uptake that for 2023. So, look, basically, in a nutshell, we're going through some money situations, some support, some technical changes, and then a demonstration of the portal. So to that end, I just wanted to cover off my little section at the beginning. Obviously, there's some big changes in the inflationary market in New Zealand of 2022, and we've all read about it in the paper, and we're all feeling it in our wallets. And the problem that we've got is that Microsoft, we're talking about Microsoft today, but all of the cloud providers are feeling it as well. Microsoft CFO Amy Wood recently stated that in 2022, which hasn't even finished yet, Microsoft have paid $830 million more than they'd planned to in the year. That's significant. Microsoft's revenues are in the billions, admittedly, but their costs have gone up astronomically compared to what they budgeted. A lot of that to date has been in Europe, but that nevertheless is significant to their balance sheet. Their cost of interest has also risen from 1% to 4% this year. So what that has done for their revenues is nothing. Their revenues have increased by 11%, you'll see there, but their net profits are down 14%. So that is going to have a big impact on us all. And we are forecasting, along with some of our other analytics companies that we partner with, that we should be expecting a 20 to 30% increase in your cloud costs over the 2023 year. So that's obviously bad news for us all. And it's easy to say, oh, well, that's in Europe. And so my next slide is about this man, Mr. Jim Chalmers, who last week released their budget for the 2023 year, and he is suggesting that the prices of electricity in Australia will increase by 20% next year and 30% the following year. So as you can see, it's not restricted to Europe. The prices haven't increased in Australia yet, but they are going to increase hard. And unfortunately, of course, all of our data centers that we currently use are in Australia. So the overwhelming suggestion is that Microsoft's costs are going through the roof, whether that be through wages growth, interest growth, or obviously power consumption costs, and also, as we can all experience, the chipset costs are going through the roof as well. So needless to say, Microsoft are going to be struggling as their costs increase and their profits decrease, and there is only one place that they will come to get that money back, and that's from the consumer. So we are suggesting at PB Tech that you really need to bear in mind that your costs can go up. We've had a lot of time in the sun, really, where the costs of Office 365, Microsoft 365, Azure, and the like have remained reasonably consistent. And we are suggesting that you probably need to go back to your budgets and your boards and let them know that time in the sun is probably ending, and that increasing costs will come up in 2023. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Victor. And Victor, if you can dial in and just talk us through how we can protect ourselves from this moving into 2023. Go ahead.
No worries, Rodney. Thank you. Well, thanks everybody for joining in. First of all, so I'm Victor. I look after the software division at PB Tech. So just on this slide that you're seeing right now, with this, next year being quite tricky for us to calculate how much the increase is going to be, if there's going to be an increase and when in 2023. The good news is that Microsoft launched the NC late last year. And one of the positive points of this new program is that you can lock in your rates for 12 months, right? So the ideal scenario is that you have enough time now to lock in your rates, and that increase won't impact you at least on the next 12 months, and then you have time to prepare yourself. So Leon was going to be giving a bit of update on the CSP program and is going out and sort of the NC overtaking it. But that is basically the catch, that we have the opportunity to lock in rates, pretty much like your mortgage rates. If you have the opportunity to do so, why wouldn't you on a good price, right? Ronnie, if you can skip to the next slide, please. The other thing that I'm going to be discussing today is just the different engagement options that you have, the standard ones at least, those three, to access Microsoft cloud products. So those are direct engagement. That's when you are a Microsoft.com client buying directly from the website. Indirect engagement. So that's when you are procuring the Microsoft products through your partner, through your IT provider. And an enterprise agreement client. So that is the arrangement that Microsoft has for enterprise clients, so the larger organizations, right? Now, I'll do an analogy of them separately and just share with you guys a few pros and cons of each one. And then in the end, I'm just going to take a little bit to tell you PB Tech's position on all this and why we're trying to do things differently. So let's start by the direct engagement, right? So if you are a Microsoft.com client, the first very positive and relevant point is that you have access to a self-service portal for you to procure and manage your licenses, right? So you retain full autonomy and you can do whatever you like, whenever you like, basically. The other pretty positive point is support. So you can log a support ticket directly with a help desk team, which is funded by Microsoft and is completely free. So you have some level of support in there, which is free of charge just by having access on the direct engagement. Now, there's a few down points for Microsoft.com, and it's mainly because the operation is based overseas. So one big one is access to knowledge base and local Microsoft expertise in New Zealand. So what does that mean for you? Let's say if tomorrow you would like to roll out Intune or implement Defender for Endpoint or make use of any of these applications, right? You're basically on your own. So you have to do your research yourself and you have to plan and take all the risks yourself because you are procuring from, on an engagement that's basically operated overseas. Now you can bring in a consulting business to try to guide you through it, but that's going to cost you money. The second negative point would be around pricing. So primarily on Microsoft.com, you get charged RRP, which is the standard retail pricing for the licenses, and you might potentially have billing issues, either paying by credit cards, an unfit and unsafe payment method, and etc. Right? So if we skip to the indirect engagement.
One of the other cons, I would imagine, Victor, and throw in your thoughts here, is that Microsoft are never going to suggest to you that you don't pay them for some of the licenses that you're not using. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's actually very accurate. So the communication is very limited running. So the clients are basically like making the decisions themselves, right? So they retain full autonomy, but that comes with the negative points of having full autonomy is that you're basically on your own. And if you make the wrong choices, or if you don't keep updated with the changes, you could be on a legacy model. You could be accessing less products, and paying even more. So it is right, actually. Now, on a indirect engagement, sorry. So that's where most of organizations in New Zealand are. So that's when you go to your IT provider and you get licenses through them. So the first and probably the core value of that is that you retain then access to the knowledge base and local Microsoft people, right? So that's available on the channel, and you can utilize that, and your partner can leverage that if they choose to do so, as well as support. So Microsoft has arrangements in New Zealand where you can access help desks free of charge, but that is a bit of a gray area for these two positive points, because it might overlap with if you have a managed service contract in place, right? So what happens is a lot of providers out there will put their clients on a contract based, which includes like networking, infrastructure, and other components of your environment, and they run support for those, right? Overall, they even bundle in your Microsoft 365 support and everything else. So the challenge that you have in there is transparency. So it's very difficult for you to have visibility of what you're paying for Microsoft 365, even products sometimes. It's hard to see the pricing that they're charging you, but as well as any support ticket or guidance that they are providing to you sometimes gets charged on the way because you log as a ticket or you talk to them as a professional service. And although these resources are available in the channel and could be provided to you potentially free of charge, you still get charged for that. So that's what a consolidated contract bring in as a challenge. And we do recommend the clients that can retain the ownership of the Microsoft 365 on the side and strip it out of this contract. We recommend them to do so. The other downside would be around pricing. So historically, IT partners has been charging RIP pricing pretty much the same as Microsoft.com. So it doesn't give you any pricing advantage to actually be dealing with an IT provider, historically at least. And another one is that the model that used to be in place and is still a lot is that they don't offer you that this particular indirect engagement sometimes don't offer you a portal for you to self-service and have that autonomy that you have through Microsoft.com. So if you want to add a license, you need to log in a ticket or call somebody or send an email, and then they need to act as a middleman and add that into your Microsoft tenant. So it just slows the whole process down. Now, if we jump to the last one, that would be an enterprise agreement client. So I'm not 100% aware of this arrangement, just because of the details, at least, just because there's only a handful of clients and providers that can trade under the enterprise agreement for Microsoft. But one of the definite pros is pricing, from what we heard. And at least in theory, you do retain access to the local or the channel resource and knowledge base, right? But the cons we heard, it can be local support, because some of these companies run their supporting operations for enterprise agreements overseas. So I don't know if that's still the case or not, but Microsoft is basically really trying to narrow down this program and only have very large organizations on an enterprise agreement, and they try to push everyone into the CSP or NCE now models, and making the criteria even harder for new clients to qualify for an enterprise agreement.
So those changes in the New Zealand market have come around with the introduction of Microsoft's monthly billing engine, really. Back in the olden days, when I first started in IT, you could engage with a large account reseller or a LAR if you were over 300 seats, and the LAR would provide you better pricing, access to licensing specialization, and there used to be 7 in New Zealand, and Microsoft have continually been squishing that number to a smaller and smaller quantity of large account resellers, or LARs. And they've also been continually lifting the number of seats in your organization before you can qualify to having an enterprise agreement. So currently that seat level is at now 2,000. Used to be 300 and now it's gone to 2,000. So it's very much a sunsetting engagement that Microsoft have got with their LARs. It'll always be around for the large organizations that are global and so forth. But in terms of accessibility to the New Zealand market, it will increasingly become more and more rare for you to be able to engage with a LAR to deliver your licensing. So if you have got it, then it's probably a great thing to retain, because it's likely that your pricing is cheap, and wring the neck of it for as long as humanly possible.
Awesome. So yeah, so that pretty much what I just did is just I believe everyone can relate to one of these models, but those are the standard models, right? So what we're trying to do differently is that PB Tech, like a few years back, we looked into this and we chose to basically challenge this standard engagement model. So we were trying to pick the best of each scenario and see if we can put something that's going to be effective and good for our clients. And we did a pretty good job, and the uptake of our engagement, as we like to label, is it's been really successful for clients that are on it. So what do we give for our Microsoft licensing clients is a disruptive licensing portal, just pretty much like the Microsoft.com portal. So you retain full ownership of what you want to add, what you want to remove at any time you want, as long as your licenses actually allow you to do so. And you can even set up like single sign-ins, so you can open up your Microsoft Admin Center and single sign in to our portal, so the experience is seamless across the two platforms. So it's very similar to Microsoft.com. We also challenge the pricing. So PB Tech is a very lean business, so our operations costs are quite low compared to our competitors. So we can offer that aggressive pricing that we have across our hardware range to our licensing, right? So we give a pretty fat discount on Microsoft licensing for our clients. We don't charge RP. We don't think it's necessary anymore, and we can bring really good cost reductions on that front. Another way that we use to try bring cost reduction, and is actually the most effective way, is that we work with the resources that are available to us through all the channel, because you are a PB Tech client and we are part of the channel, so we have access to the knowledge base. So we engage with people like Leon, who is just going to be presenting soon. We have one-on-one sessions with our clients, and we try to basically map it out, the environment, make sure that they are on the most cost-effective licensing structure as they possibly can, and matches with their future plans and future implementation plans if they have in place. So we try to guide them through our clients through that scenario at the same time as bringing cost reduction. And the support, look, we leverage the Microsoft-funded help desk. So it's local people. It's based in New Zealand. They have direct access to some of the backend within Microsoft. So that same portal that I'm going to be showing you guys after that, if you stick around to see a demonstration, you use the same portal to procure your license as well as login tickets. And these guys will look after you, and they will raise a ticket with Microsoft if it needs to be, if it's a level 3 ticket, and they will include you in the communication. So yeah, like I said, if you stick around, I'm just quickly going to show you through the portal after Leon gives his update, and then we can go a little bit more about this and any questions that you guys may have. So I'll pass it on to Leon.
Thanks, Victor. Look, I think one of the really things to point out here is that over the last 20 years, the New Zealand IT market has changed. Back when, again, when a lot of us started in the market, it was very common for you to have one IT provider that did everything for you. As things have moved on and progressed basically towards commoditization, all the PCs have become commoditized, the servers have become commoditized, and now the licensing has become commoditized. There's research that in Asia Pacific now, the average number of IT partners that a business has is 7. So that's 7 people that you'll be dealing with in order to be able to deliver the different segments of your business. Whereas 20 years ago, it predominantly was 1. And so we wanted to make sure at PB Tech that we give you transparency and utilization of all the different pieces of your business so that you can be fully aware that you're getting a great deal across each of the segments of with which you work, rather than graying it all up together and expect you to be able to get to the bottom of whether you're getting a good deal for all of the different pieces of your IT supply of their business. So that's what Victor's talking about in terms of accessing pricing and so forth, and accessing support. So, Liam, I've got a few questions for you. Can you, over the last 12 months, can you just give us an overview of what's changed in Microsoft's cloud licensing world?
Sure thing. Thanks, Rodney. Yeah, so we've had a huge shift in Microsoft in the last 12 months. We've been using what we call the CSP legacy licensing model for a number of years now, 4 or 5 years, with no real changes to things around pricing or even licensing rules. And so yeah, again, what you sort of said is it's a bit of a sunset at the moment, and we really do see this big shift sort of. I don't want to say due, but in a way it is due. So there's a reason why, and many reasons, they've overhauled many parts of the CSP legacy program. So the first thing is we've had the inception of NCE. So that stands for New Commerce Experience. What that basically is it's comprised of a few different components. It's first of all and foremost, it's a full new licensing model. So we actually have all those SKUs we used to transact under CSP. They're still the same products. The main difference is the rules in the licensing model itself. So on top of that, and I'll go into a bit further detail soon on that, the next part of that is a whole new partner center, which is where most of the partners are transacting through, and as well as the admin center. So that was changed first. That was actually changed at about the start of last year. NCE was available for select partners in November 1st last year, 2021. And then we had GA, so went live for NCE in January 14th this year. So it moved pretty quick, and we've obviously been slowly adopting that as things have changed. Alongside all of that, we also had a couple of cutoff dates in March that are really important to note. So any new orders purchased by customers from March 1st onwards had to be transacted under NCE SKUs. So unfortunately, they weren't able to use the old CSP model anymore. The second large enforcement date was the price increase, and that was 6 of the most popular SKUs that most of us know and love and use. So that was March 11th. Everything that renewed either under legacy CSP after March 11th or a new order under NCE was then subject to the new pricing model. So what that looked like, the SKUs that were price increased just off the top, M365 Business, Basic and Premium, Office 365, E1, E3, E5. And it's worthy to note that those older Office 365 SKUs are still current. They obviously lack a lot of the features that M365 does, but of course they do fit a lot of business models for many customers. And the last SKU was M365 E3. So we saw a really large uptake in that, of course. One that was very recent also, that just was about a week ago, was announced by Microsoft, is also the SQL Server licensing increased as well. Again, one of those I guess well-due price increases. Rodney really highlighted that increase in energy, all those costs for the data centers. So that's quite expected across that. But as of January 1st, 2023, there'll be a 10% increase across SQL Server licensing as well. And it's worthwhile touching on that end of last year, we also had the EOL date for business, open business. So that was one half of the open licensing structure. We still have open value, which is current, but of course, anything purchased under open value does require software assurance. And if you know software assurance, it's a quite expensive cost. Great, of course, if you need to retain upgrade and downgrade rights. But again, the price is obviously a lot higher. And with the inception of a lot of the service subscriptions now available through CSP and through cloud, tends to be a much better model.
Excellent. What, in a nutshell, is the difference between CSP and NCE?
Yeah, really good question. So I guess it's really good I like to just dial it back a bit. So CSP was what we class as not that NCE is inflexible, but CSP had a lot of, I guess, non-enforced rules by Microsoft. So one of the big misconceptions with CSP licensing is you had two options, right? Let's just take a business premium subscription as an example. You had an ability to choose either a pay monthly or an annual upfront. Now, for a lot of customers on the pay monthly, they actually thought it's a monthly subscription term. Now, technically, it was a 12-month subscription term for both those options. However, there was no enforcements by Microsoft for cancellations, scaling down during term. You could also pro rata refunds were given if you cancel mid-term. Of course, scaling down had no repercussions by Microsoft either. So that was that CSP model. Now, under NCE, the rules are a lot different. So we need to understand that they added a third licensing option and enforced those cancellation policies. So if you purchase an NCE subscription, let's just say a 12-month term, you've got 7 days from the date of purchase to scale down or cancel. Otherwise, during the term, we can only scale up. So it's really important to note that. So again, those cancellation periods are now fully enforced by Microsoft. So in addition to the monthly paid annual commit, as well as the annual upfront paid and annual commit, they added a third option for scalable flexible model, which is a monthly paid monthly term. So every month when the subscription renews, you then have 7 days to either cancel, scale down, or obviously enact any of those changes.
So obviously, it's really important now as you're fixing your licensing to consider how many licenses you're definitely going to use for the next 12 months. And then, much like the revolving credit on your mortgage, fix a term for the certain number of licenses, and then add a buffer for the ups and downs. Is that important now with NCE?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I sort of look at the shift to NCE looks like for cloud licensing now is just vigilance, right? So we just need to be really vigilant around that. And what both you and Victor talked about earlier around, there's no Microsoft sort of compliance around, if there's licenses that aren't being used and then letting you know that too. Obviously, they're paying more for licenses they're not even using. This NCE new model is just highlights that even further. So like in terms of a bit of best practice, what we see for most organizations, I like to think of it as like an 80-20 rule. So my 80-20 rule sort of looks at a licensing model for a customer, say they've got 50 seats of business standard, and they may very well want to look at that and go, okay, cool, let's lock in 12-month term paid monthly for 80% of those seats. So we might do, just over 40 of those seats locked into 12 months. That way we avoid the 20% price increase, which is what everybody has to pay for the monthly term subscription under NCE. And then you put the remaining 20%, so maybe 8 seats out of 50, onto a monthly term, allowing that scalability every month for those 8 seats, up or down. And that's sort of what we see as the best practice without obviously having to move everybody to a monthly term and paying that price premium by Microsoft.
So essentially, in a nutshell, fix as many as you can and then pay 20% extra per month for flexibility.
Exactly.
Excellent. Does this impact on anything for nonprofits and charities?
Yeah, good question also. So not-for-profit and charities are still transacted under the CSP legacy licensing model, but it's important to note there are still a few changes that have just occurred with this also in the last few months. So again, under any customer that is a not-for-profit, a charity, or education is under the same banner here, you can still transact under CSP. And obviously that's nice in terms of the flexibility, the cancellation periods, all of that. But of course, this is only going to continue until Microsoft do introduce an enforcement date. We know it's going to happen. They just haven't thrown out a date for this yet. In addition to this, we've also had a price increase for not-for-profits and charities. Now, this isn't affecting education, so ignore this for education because obviously you'll be transacting under the A SKUs. But under not-for-profit and charities, really important to note that there's an increase of 5 SKUs. So we've got Business Premium, M365E3, O365 E1, E3, and E5. They're all going to be or have been increased as of September 1st, obviously varying amounts similar to the March 11th increase, but any customer that is either renewing their not-for-profit or charity subscriptions or purchasing a new NCE subscription after September 1st will be subject to the new pricing. So again, really important to note and be vigilant around this also.
Excellent. Thanks heaps, Len. What we're going to do now is pass over to Victor, who's going to give a demonstration of our PB Tech portal and why we think that's really helpful to customers, and show you how you can utilize the full suite of tools that we've got available at PB Tech. But whilst that's going on, I'd really encourage you to throw in some questions into the chat, and then we'll come back to Liam to answer some of those questions, or any of the panel here, and we can make sure we cover off all your questions before we sign out. So Victor, over to you for just a demonstration, and if you can also maybe talk through whilst you're there. You know, I know that you and I talked earlier about how a licensed provider is much the same in the New Zealand marketplace as an energy provider. How, you know, in New Zealand you get your energy from your power bill as a consumer from a retailer. And the lines are delivered to you via a lines company, and the power is actually generated by a power generator. In the same sense, Microsoft have adopted that model for licensing, where you're purchasing your licensing SKUs, if you choose to go through a partner, is much like a retailer, and that retailer can be easily changed to make sure that you're getting the best value out of that retailer. Is that have you got anything else to add to that before we jump into the demonstration?
No, that's right, Rodney. And yeah, another point to note is just like you said, it's like every product's coming from the same grid, just like your pallet. So you're just switching whoever is actually providing that to the client, right? So a good idea is to view the values that the provider is actually adding along the way for this, around pricing, around, you know, capability in terms of knowledge and guidance, like I said, and support. But because I think it's Microsoft's best interest to actually make the entire relationship between the client and Microsoft as easy as possible. So if you want to migrate it across, let's say if you come to PB Tech, the migration is not even a migration. It takes like 3 clicks after I sent the customer the link, and then we are then authorized to add licenses into their Microsoft tenant. So the whole process being real seamless, and that's why we believe that, you know, it's a pretty good idea to retain access to a portal such as this one that I'm going to show now, because everything is being so commoditized nowadays, like you said. And as long as you know what you want, or we help you find out what you need, then you can come in self-service. And I'm just quickly going to show you through the portal then. So that's how it looks like. So it's a very straightforward portal, which thank God is not over featured or nothing like that. It's just something that you can use to basically, on a nutshell, add subscriptions, remove them, upgrade them, downgrade them, as long as, like I said, you are allowed to under the terms of the program that you are on. So that's the layout. This is the search engine. So that's where you're going to go and search for products. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to show you in a second. As you go down here, the dashboard is actually just a shortcut, so you can see the users. Whoops, jumped off for a second. There you go. So you can see the user. So it's basically a control user access. So you can add new users, remove them, as well as edit their permissions, you know, change passwords and etc. Pretty straightforward. And on the left-hand side here, where your menu is where all your subscriptions are going to be sitting. So if you look into one of the instances, for example, so the subscriptions are actually grouped into instances. So if we pick this one, it's a business-based subscription. So over here, you can view the plan details, you can manage the subscription, but you can increase quantities on the same instance, so they all get grouped and get charged at the same time, and they all look nice and tidy from a billing point of view as well. You can change them, upgrade them, and even downgrade or remove them or switch to different plans, right? So it's very easy to use, and it doesn't have a lot to it. It's just something that you can use to control your subscriptions. And then as you jump into, sorry, there you go. As you jump into your account, so again, you can see your subscriptions in here, account profiles, just your organization information in here, and you can see an action log. So that gives you basically a history of who did what within that portal, right? So that is the portal, really straightforward. Like I said, there are more than only Microsoft products in this portal, so you can shop around for Trend Micro, Adobe, Azure products, and etc. But we'll just stick with Microsoft for now, just for the sake of this demonstration. So I'm just going to show you how easy it is for you to actually add a license to your Microsoft tenant. So if you come in here and you basically find the product that you want, we just pick like a business basic, or I add this earlier on anyway. So you just select different subscription period in here, either monthly or yearly. The price is going to change accordingly. Valid to say as well that your special pricing is going to be tied on this portal. So you're going to be shopping on your special pricing. We can enable that. And then as you go to cart, that's when you change the quantity of the licenses. So you can change this to like 10, 100, it doesn't matter. So as you hit the next button, so that gives you either option to create a new CSP domain or Microsoft domain, but we already have one. So we take an existing one here, jump to the next one. And it takes a little bit of time because so this portal is it has APIs with Microsoft backend. So every time we do an update or something like this, it's communicating back to Microsoft and sending the information back on here. So that's the session where you put your domain detail. Now you only have to do this once. Once you put your domain here, it's going to be saved for your account. As you hit to the next one, and we just wait for this to load. And like I said before, you can we can configure a single sign-in here. So as you are on your Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you don't have to log in. You just click on a favorites tab in here and go straight to the portal. So that's not relevant to New Zealand. It's just declaring that's not a state-owned entity. This is actually for the American market. And now as the very last step in which the portal is actually loading the license and sending the information into Microsoft's tenant. So it takes a little bit of time. You go, make yourself a coffee, come back, and there you go. So you can put a PO information in here if you wish to, or if you don't want, you can just go ahead. The payment method's not going to change. So as you purchase subscriptions in here, you're going to be invoiced from PB Tech for the subscriptions relative to the period that you added that subscription in, right? So we run the billing on a monthly basis, and everything happens automatically on the back end. So you hit buy, and then the order is going to get processed basically right away. It's real quick because you already send the information to Microsoft. As you refresh in here, because I added a like a straight up new subscription, it created a second instance in here. And it takes about, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes for the order to be fulfilled and for your subscription to be available on your Microsoft Admin Center. So as you jump to the Admin Center, once you load the license, you can just basically click on the user and just go in there and assign the license that's going to be available. So it's really straightforward. It's nothing that makes it overcomplicated. It's very easy to manage, and it reflects automatically into your billing that we're going to send you every month. And that's basically it, Ronnie. I guess if you have any questions or anything to add, it's real actually easy.
Yeah, I've got a few questions here coming in, Victor. Yeah. First one you can answer while I read through some of the others is just about the billing from PB Tech to our customer, whether that's via our normal credit term account for businesses, or how does it work if you wanted to pay by credit card? I'd imagine we'd shift everybody to a commercial term account. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So if you receive an invoice like you receive an invoice for a hardware purchase, if you have a term account, if you don't have a term account, we can look for you to try to help you to get one. But if you want to pay via bank transfer or whatever that is, all we need to do is we'll be selling you a year long subscription. So you pay upfront, and then we load the licenses into your Microsoft tenant. But ideally, you would start a term account with us so we can bill you on a monthly basis.
Steve, you just had a question about whether we require admin rights to your portal in order to be able to add licenses. So, Liam, do you want to cover that? I
Yeah, of
assume
course.
not.
It's quite simple. Yeah. So look, everybody needs to provide, whoever's providing them licensing needs those delegated admin privilege rights. Microsoft have recently moved to what they call GDAP, so it's away from DAP. So it used to be delegated admin privileges, now it's granular delegated admin privileges, essentially meaning the distributor and the partner supplying you licensing has far less rights over your tenancy as they would have previously. The one thing to really note, though, is that you can, of course, remove those rights after licensing's been procured. So we do have customers that do that are obviously really, I guess, worried about the security side of things, which is understandable. So again, they do need the rights to purchase the licensing and then can revoke that later down the track.
Liam, another one for you. Can you talk us through the best practices around the 80/20 and if you did have somebody, a user on that you had deemed as one of your 80 and then they left, how do you switch that around? And do you do that through the PB Tech portal? Do you do that through the Microsoft portal? And is that a simple process?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just reading the question from Craig. Do we need to transfer licenses between staff using the 80/20? So I guess the good thing is that in your Microsoft Admin Center, the first component of this is really simple. The Admin Center doesn't pick up if a subscription is yearly, monthly, or whatever the term is. If it's a business standard license, it's a business standard license. So it'll pull them and group them all together. So you don't need to manually assign or change anything there, which is nice and easy. But if you want to move someone off monthly into yearly, that can absolutely be done at any point. So that's nice and easy, but you can't do the opposite, of course. You can't go from yearly to monthly. And yes, that can absolutely be done in the PB Tech portal. If you want to move all those licenses that are on monthly over to yearly, that can be done with a click of a button. If it is a partial user or seat upgrade, it does need to go through a support ticket, and then the support team will do that. It's a Microsoft limitation from the back end side of things.
Okay, just got one here from Cal Peace. We talked about how easy it is to transfer between retailers. If a customer chooses to move their licensing provider to PB Tech, get onto a 12-monthly NCE model, then 4 months in decide that they hate PB Tech and they want to move to somebody that's not PB Tech. Can this be done? How easy is that? What risk is associated with moving between partners willy-nilly like you would with a power retailer?
Yeah, look, and that's under CSP, the old licensing model. It was a simple repurchase of licensing under a new partner and then cancellation. Under NCE, it's not that simple. So it is important to obviously pair with a provider that you trust, and can provide those services. You can't simply just move stuff in the back end midterm. You do need to wait till those subscriptions actually come up for renewal, which then you can obviously cancel, repurchase under another provider. There is no back end way at the moment to actually transfer the licensing. It may be something Microsoft implement in the future. I sort of hope so myself. But at the moment, it is very important to trust that through your provider, because we don't have the ability to move that midterm.
Excellent. We've got another one here from Christoph. Would PB Tech provide migration support from Google Workspace? Of course, the answer is 1,000,000% yes, Christoph. We'd love to come out there and consult to your business and make sure you're on the right tools moving forward. Last one there, Victor. I don't know if you can see it. Do you want to cover off that question from Bradley?
Yeah, sure. So the question is this PB Tech licensing available for smaller customers if there is a minimal amount of seats or quantity requirements? So the answer is yes, it's available to everybody, and it doesn't matter how small you are. So the only implications are the only things that we're going to have to work through is the billing side, right? So if you qualify, if you fit the criteria to get a term account with PB Tech, then there is no issues in terms of size from the licensing part. It's just around the terms and conditions of the financial side, right? But this can be worked around as well by yearly subscriptions, like I said before as well, if you at this moment don't qualify for a term account.
Just in generally speaking, Christoph, we have credit term accounts for businesses with over 20 staff and with over an annual spend of $20,000. That's obviously flexible because once we start dealing with smaller businesses around their licensing and our services and on-site support and help desk, we become much more integrated as a business partner, and therefore the risk for us is a little bit lower. So we are flexible for the smaller business, but that does require having a conversation with you. So I'm just going to share my screen here for the last part, Victor, for you to talk us through.
No worries.
Obviously, Microsoft have got some offers worth discussing.
Awesome. So yeah, so there's a promotion in place which everyone, like a lot of people, can benefit of, and that is a 16.7% off the NCE monthly commitment pricing when you are upgrading, right? So what the upgrade means is if you are within one of the Microsoft business plans and you're upgrading to a higher tier, then you can get this discount on the monthly commitment SKUs, right? So that discount stacks up with PBTech's special pricing that we offer to our clients. So if you are either new to Microsoft 365, you qualify, or if you are upgrading, you also qualify. Then I strongly recommend you to look into this because the savings can be well over 20-25%. So yeah, talk to us and have a look into this QR code. It'll take you straight to the page, and it has all the T's and C's, the products that are available in there. Unfortunately, not available to the enterprise SKUs, E3 and E5, but it's still very relevant to a lot of people out there.
Victor, can you mix and match between business premium and E3? So, for example, if you're a business of 600 staff, I know the limitation on business is 300. Can you get 300 of business and then the other 300 of E3?
Yes, you can. So, and there are customers that are doing this right now. So the Microsoft Business Premium, since the last upgrade, they add a whole bunch of features into the plan. And now it's actually quite similar to the E3. It does have a few differences though, but you can go up to 300 seats on the Microsoft Business Premium SKU, which is quite a lot more cost effective than the E3. And then the remaining, you put them onto the enterprise SKU like an E3. So you can definitely do that.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, I've just got one more screen to share for everybody. Let me do this now.
While you do this, Rodney, Josh just asked if this business premium equals to 365 E5. No, it's not. If you're talking about the Microsoft 365 E5, then it's basically the highest tier of product that you can purchase. Business premium would be inferior comparing to that plan.
Excellent. Thanks, Victor. So just as in closing, we just want to make sure that you know how to contact us should you wish to. If you go to PB Tech, as I am here, hopefully everyone can see my screen. If you click on PB Tech Business and go down to our services, you'll see there our IT coverage, our procurement. If you scroll down here and past the on-site support services, you get to our managed services. And one of the managed services links that we've got to here is our Microsoft license management. And you can scroll down, fill in the form at the bottom there, and that will get through to our licensing team, and one of our licensing specialists will be in touch with you to make sure that we look after you the best way possible. As we mentioned at the beginning, we're recording this session, and we will send you an email with a link to the recording, and it will likely appear magically on that licensing page later in the month. So yeah, thank you very much for joining. Hopefully it's been helpful. Really appreciate you tuning in, and look forward to hopefully being able to help you in your business moving forward.
Bye, guys.